Hello, everyone. Anyone who joins, anybody who watches, anybody who does anything. Alright, so I'm just trying out this live stream stuff. I don't know how it works. I've never done it before. But I want to at least give it a go because I kind of want to do it in the future with a bunch of people just so I can be a little bit more creative and get in touch with people who follow my channel. So I don't know how to share. There we go. Copy that. And I think what I want to do is I actually want to go to Gaea's page here, and I want to share it. Tedding. Yeah, I'm totally tedding that. Yeah, this is gonna be my first live stream, so it's gonna be just trying to figure it all out still. So let's go see how that looks. Oh, you can really hear that in the background, can't you? Tedding. Yeah, I'm totally tedding that. Yeah, this is gonna be my first live stream, so we're gonna get some stream inception going on here. All right, I'm gonna close that out. Okay, so here we got Gaea. All right, so we're using the latest version, 1.2.0.0. I believe this will be bleeding edge, so let's have fun with that. Let's see. Yeah, thanks, Dex. Yeah, I know it's a little late. I just got off work, and I've been wanting to try this out. So, I mean, this will be a good test to start with. But yeah, for sure, I'll probably be doing some additional live stream stuff in the future. So let's go ahead and start a new project then. I'm just gonna format this so it shows up on the live stream properly. There we go. Alright, and this as well. Sorry, there's just quite a few different windows I need to open up and arrange here. Alright, we got streaming status is good, but we do have a warning here. I don't know what that warning is. Bit rate is lower than the recommended bit rate. We recommended that you use a bit rate of 4500. I believe I can change that. I think that's an OBS change. You're going to be seeing some stuff here. Output, we got a video bit rate. Just 4500, I suppose. Can we do that? 45,000? No, we want 4500. There we go. I don't know if that'll do anything. Anyways, let's see. What else do we have here? That might just be for the recording. I'm not sure. I wish I can switch this all around. I don't necessarily want that. We got live stream settings. cancel that. That's not it. Well, it must be. Yeah, it's got to be an OBS setting. All right. Anyways, let's go ahead and start talking about some Gaea stuff. It's a really good program. You probably wouldn't be a part of the group on Facebook or talking to me about on Facebook if you didn't know anything about it, or or at least if you're interested, you'd be looking into it a little bit more. But let's we're gonna go ahead and just play around with it a bit and test out this live stream, and then we're going to we're just gonna create something here. So probably something that I'm usually used to making just as a good test. That usually involves a purlin. So let's go ahead and drag a purlin out here. Just like any other node-based application, we're going to have a bunch of nodes out here. We're going to connect them and do different things with them and make some cool stuff. Also, if you're not using the latest edition of Gaea, I do recommend using it because not only do they have this handy-dandy north-facing arrow here, but they did redesign the interface, the 3D interface, which is nice. You can turn off that 2D view for the time being just by using that 2D show 2D viewport button, or you press F6, whichever. And this grid is much nicer to see. The lighting is better. Depth is better, in my opinion. Just a lot of good changes in the 3D viewport in the latest Bleeding Edge version. And then speaking of lighting, let's go ahead and look at our lighting here. So we have it set to auto level. That's fine. Kind of want the light to be higher, so it's a little bit brighter, maybe off to the side a bit. And lighting is also much faster in this new version. Maybe a little less. There we go. So now we got some shadows and we got some good lighting here. I can see what we're doing. All right, we do have enhanced visibility here, which kind of throws on a contrast. It kind of makes everything more contrasted. I like it with it off, but for those who want it, you have the option. All right, so we have our purlin noise here, and this is a fundamental, in my opinion, a very fundamental node. Very, very easy to get going with pretty much anything starting with purlin. Matter of fact, I imagine that the purlin noise, as well as the Voronoi noise, are probably mixed together in some way, shape, or form, or fashion to make a lot of these other primitives that we have, like the mountain primitive, for example. So let's go ahead and drop that out. And you can see this. I can immediately, I don't know the math behind it for Gaea in any case, but you definitely got some of the more cell-based patterns going on with the Voronoi, and then the details that we see in the noise itself could be coming from other things like purlin or whatnot. But I would take a bet and say that a lot of these other primitives probably are a mixture of, in some way, shape, or form, maybe not necessarily exactly like this, but a mixture of these two. All right, so let's go ahead and remove the purlin or the mountain noise. Stick with purlin. And we have our options over here, and everything in Gaea is super easy to find. You have your nodes over here, your work node graph right here, your 3D viewport, and all of your settings are on this side. So you don't have to worry about looking and finding and searching. You just drag a node out here and then go to its settings. And settings are in sections. So right here we have the actual purlin noise settings, so we can change our octaves and our scale. Scale, obviously, if you decrease that, the noise will get smaller. Becomes more mountainous and rugged. And then when you increase it, it becomes a little bit more flat. And I guess it doesn't really necessarily become flat. The noise just becomes larger. And the octaves will be kind of like the detail in the noise. So if we have low octaves, there's very few details. And if we increase the octaves, we have more detail. And you want to find a good balance between low and high octaves. But a good start is 10. It really depends on your needs, but 10 is a good place to start. And then it's there by default. All right. Then we have the noise pattern in the FBM, rigid or billowy. FBM is what you see right here. And this is a very standard purlin noise pattern that's found in different other 3D applications, like Cinema 4D, for example, has it. In Vue, I believe Vue has it as well. And then we have rigid, which makes these more rigid noise patterns. So you can think these as like rocky outcrops, or if you throw a erosion node on here, you'll have these little valley grooves that are carved by the erosion with these rigid areas. It's really nice. Another one that we have is billowy, and this is going to be like your hills, your nice, smooth, flowing hills, a little bit more inflated look to them. But with Gaea, it's nice because instead of getting like an artificial inflation look, we actually do retain much of the noise detail inside of billowy. So in other programs that I've used in the past, if you use the billowy option, you get these rounded areas that kind of make these creases in your landscape, and those are not only difficult to get rid of, but they look terrible. So in Gaea, we have this billowy noise pattern, but we don't have those nasty creases. And I think if we decrease the octaves, we'll kind of... No, we don't even get it when we decrease the octaves. But we do have a crease here. As you see this little trenchy area. It'll be like that, but less detail overall. And it would just be nice, and it'll just be smooth. It looked super fake, and you have to increase the octaves quite a bit. It was just really hard to mishmash the amount of detail you needed with the amount of billowiness you needed. But with Gaea, I want to say octane all the time. I don't know why. But with Gaea, even at the default setting, already looks much better, as well as the low octaves looks really good. And then obviously you have your seeds here. Seeds are going to be, you know, just your randomness that you can just poke around with and see what you get. You can hold shift down, you'll get these micro incrementations. There's a few new ones here. So we have the value. Well, I guess they're not really new, but they're different looking. They have arrows now, so we can have the value, which will just have the value of your seed, or you can double it, which will double the value of your seed, or you can make steps. So you have a minimum, which takes it all the way down, max takes it all the way up, and then you have these small increments. So we can decrease by 5, and you can decrease by 1. I find myself using the decrease by 1 all the time, because you can just sit here, hold down shift, and just click and click and click, and you can make literally hundreds of thousands, if not more, variations in your landscape. So especially when you start adding filters that change your landscape base a little bit more, it's literally infinite what you can do. And then you can go back to the default value, which was 4134. All right, cool. So I don't want billowy though. I would like to play around with rigid. Rigid is good. And I also want to play around with the scale. So let's go ahead and decrease the scale to about... rigid's going to create a lot of noise variation like this. And you can fix that with octaves. But instead of doing that, let's go ahead and keep the scale kind of low. We'll say maybe 60. And what we want to do is we just want to get rid of the edges here. We want to have 0 edges. So there is a node for that. And excuse me if I forget how to type while having a mic in front of my face. So we do have 0 borders. We're going to go ahead and connect that node. And the way I did that is you just click on the output and drag it out and drop anywhere in the node graph. And you can get this menu that pops up. You can search by favorites. You can make portals. And then it has suggestions based on what you've used recently. Or you can start typing. So if you know the name of the node, you just start typing. So in this case, I typed 0 and it brought up 0 borders. Or I can do something like erosion. It'll bring up anything that has erosion in it. So super easy. Another way to do it is everything is color coded. So primitives are green. Filters are blue. So if you wanted to, you can come over here. You can look at what we have here. So if we wanted to throw out, I don't know. Let's say we throw rocks out. You can drag rocks out, drop it right on a node, and it'll auto connect it. So that's another thing you can do. It's just super easy, super simple workflow. I love it. So let's go ahead and delete that. And there we go. We got our 0 borders. You'll notice that we do have this weird circular shape now, but that's fine. We're going to work on that a little bit later. But we can always come back to any point in the node graph to make changes or add anything. We're not set in stone here. You don't have to worry about if you make a mistake. You can always revert your changes. So you have to remember that Gaea is mostly just a visualization tool with export options. So anything that you do here will not be solid or won't be finalized until you export it. So you can go back and make any changes you want. So we do have the mode here. So we have square or round. If we do round, you'll see we have a much nicer and clean edge here, but we still have just a really round shape. And not only that, but we lost some of the detail and made our mountain more pointy. We can fix that by decreasing the power, which really, in all actuality, is not going to make much of a change. Or, actually, I believe it's inverted. Yeah, there we go. We can increase the power, so we don't have that point anymore, but we still lost quite a few of our edges, noise that we had. I'm going to decrease this just a tad bit, get some of that peakiness back. We can play around with the iterations as well. Iterations will be how many times this is done over and over and over. We can, 6 is probably too much. Let's go ahead and decrease that to 3. So now we have a little more of a natural look. So we kind of went from this chaotic mess, which does have a lot of good detail, but it's too much, to this, which is kind of flat, dull, and boring, just by first glance. So what we're going to do to fix this? Well, we can do a couple things. We can bring back some of the detail from this node, if we wanted, but we'll bring back the edges as well. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to throw in a combine node. And let's go ahead and... So for some reason, maybe this is something that Dax can talk on or hit on a little bit in the future, but it did kind of confuse me at first, and I don't know why. But these adjustment nodes do show up as blue, but they're kind of like this off green color over here. I don't know if that's by design or if it's just something that was missed, but there is that. But yeah, anyway, they all should be color coded. So if we were to throw this out, we got this. We don't have, it's going to be red because it's not connected. We do have this blue color, but it's more of this purplish color. So I don't know, maybe it's something that maybe I'm colorblind. Anyways, I keep hitting my mic, sorry. So we do have this combine node. Let's go ahead and set up the combine with the 0 borders here. And let's go ahead and bring in our purlin and set that up into input 2. And then what we're going to do is we're going to, we can blend it, but let's try some other factors here. So let's increase the blend all the way, and then if we just make sure that that method is highlighted and then use the arrow keys, we can scrub through all the options. And if we keep it at 0, this is what I do all the time. If we keep it at 100, sorry, not 0, but 100, then we'll see the full effect in real time while we're scrubbing through. So this, for example, brings back a lot of that detail, and it's using the multiply option, which is a standard option to use for a lot of use cases. In this case, we're multiplying the data from this node and this node in the combine node, and we're getting the output of this. So we went from this to this, which brought back quite a bit of our detail. So that's nice. Using combined nodes is a good way to ensure that you get the details you want where you need them. But also, another good way to do it is to, I get sidetracked, but I do like to keep these lined up so they're easy to follow. So this line doesn't touch this node. That way you can easily see where it's going. Okay. To get details where you want them, but combining isn't always the right answer. Sometimes we want to be more selective in what we're doing. And a good, I keep hitting that with my headset. I so apologize. A good way to do that is to select where we're applying something. And that is as simple as using one of these. We can use these data masks if we wanted, but we could also use, where'd they put them? Let's see, they're going to be, Where am I missing these? Oh. Okay, so they're all in, everything's in data. I don't know, for some reason I thought that there was its own little selection option, like slope and height and stuff like that. But they are most definitely still inside of the data options. All right, so let's find something to kind of show this off. So we have stratify. So if we use stratify on all of our landscape, it does look cool, but sometimes it's something that we don't want. We have like this mesa look, which looks really cool, but we want to be a little more selective. So let's go ahead and we're not gonna have that selected. Let's drag and drop from the output node of the combine and put in height. So we enter that. And now we have this height node. And what we want to do is have the combine node output to the height node, and the height node output to the mask of the stratify. And what that'll do is it'll allow us to use this height as a mask to where we apply the stratify. And in order to see any changes, we have to make changes to our height node, obviously. So let's go ahead and turn the minimum down. So we're selecting, we don't have any minimum, but we do have a maximum. So let's go ahead and decrease the maximum. And now you can see right here is our selection. And we have this fall off, so we can increase the fall off, which will just put a nice, fall off, I guess, on your landscape, and it will smooth the effect out on that fall off. Or if you decrease it, now you have this really stark and harsh cutoff. So if we were to look at our stratify now, we have the stratify appearing in our selection, which is from here down. So black is not selected. And we have this really tough, hard fall off. So let's go ahead and increase the fall off, maybe 10%. Now let's look at it. There we go. Now it's not so hard. But there's other things we can do. So say we wanted the effect to apply at the top and on the bottom-ish. Well, we can do that by increasing the maximum and the minimum. So we don't want it to decrease or increase the minimum past the maximum. So let's increase the maximum just a tiny bit and increase the minimum just a tiny bit more. There we go. Well, what we did is we actually just did the opposite of what I wanted. We applied it in the center rather than the bottom and the top. So if we want to apply it at the top, we do that. If we want to apply it more towards the bottom and the top, we just make sure that we do this. You can normalize the options as well, which will put a normalizer over it, and then you'll get a much more contrasted effect. Let's increase the normal or the minimum a bit more. There we go. All right. So now we have almost the entire thing stratified minus just the very bottom. All right. So that's what we can do if we wanted to use to be more selective in what we're doing. And height is not the only one. We also have slope. So a lot of the times when I use a slope select, it's to mimic where there's snowfall, especially when we have a sun coming up and over our mountain range. We want to make sure that we have snow in the right areas. So to better show that off, let's go ahead and remove this stratify node and this height node. And we're going to add an erosion node just so we have some data to work with. Erosion creates a lot of information on our landscape that is really nice to use for coloring as well as mimicking different things when it comes to nature, like where snow would fall with our sun coming up. So if the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, then our snow will most likely be powdery on this side of our landscape. So let's see what we can do. So we have erosion here, and we also want to throw out a quick color just so we can visualize some things. And then for the landscape as a whole, I'm going to throw out a texture. There we go. I actually want to flip these. I like to keep things organized, sorry. So we have our texture, and then we're going to throw out a set maps. And what set maps are is they are these color gradients that we can use to mimic colors in the real world. So this default one that it just randomly chose is good, but we can always pick from a large variety of rocky, sandy, green, blue, colorful, and are the old legacy options. But I mean, this one is nice, but let's just go ahead and click through a few of them, just for experimental sake. This one right here almost never fails me. Same thing with this one, but I think I'm going to go with this. So let's go with this for now, and without getting too complicated, all texture does is it creates this texture mask for you automatically, and then you have some parameters here that we can play with, but we're not going to do that now because it'll just be an entire video on its own doing texture stuff. But for the time being, we're going to go ahead and just apply the texture as it is by default, and then set maps will just take that data from the textures and apply it accordingly. I'm actually going to try to find another one here. I just decided I want something that will contrast with snow really well, so this one will work well. Now with quick color, we want to make sure that our selection's white. That way we actually have a white powdery snow substance. So keep it color 1 is white and color 2 is black. Keep that how it is, and then what we're going to do is we're actually going to use another selection here. So we're going to type in slope. I'm going to throw in the slope, and you can see how we're selecting the slope. Now we have north there. We have our minimum and maximum, and these are in degrees, so we have to kind of play around with it here. So remember, black, there will be no snow. White, there will be snow. So if we have our sun coming up this way, so if that's north, north, south, east, and west, sorry, rises in the west, sets in the east. Wait, I am so dumb. Hold on a second. Okay. Sorry. I'm an idiot. I'm also tired, so I've been working non-stop for months and haven't had a weekend for a long time, so I'm really tired. Alright, so yeah, rises in the east, sets in the west. So if that's north, south, east, and west, we don't want snow appearing where the sun will be at its peak the longest, because then it'll just be warmer and the sun will melt the snow, obviously. So we want our selection to not be on this side, which it's not. And then we also have a minimum here which we can play with, which will affect the slope at the lower areas, but we'll just have snow everywhere. We do have this fall off though. There will be a good amount of fall off with our selection. So let's go down to maybe 72, and let's see what that looks like. We'll take this slope, attach it to, what is it, visualization, and then we'll take a mixer and we'll combine our set map and our quick color. I might be using the wrong options with using visualizer there, but that's alright. We could always just take this and put it into a mask and that into the quick color input, which, you know what, let's just do that. We don't need that. There we go. A lot of stuff is trial and error with this kind of stuff, so and I get confused, especially when I'm tired, and I like to call it tired stupid because I'm stupid and I'm tired, but then you mix both of them and now I'm just extra stupid. Alright, so we got this mixture. We don't want to use blend in this case, though we could, because if we do that we can take the mask here and we can mask in the slope. But again, we don't need to do that. We can just use leave screen. and again, we can just move through these until we find what we like. Might be easier to just use blend and then mask in the slope. There we go. We got our color here and our color here. We mix them together and that's what we have. Maybe to contrast this a bit more, we'll use this. There we go. Cool. So we're looking north. Now we don't have snow on the slope here. And we also have another one we can do, which is I forget what it's called. Give me a sec. I feel like I'm missing something here. There is, I could have sworn there was like a direction node. I could just be so tired I'm out of it. Let's see. We have let's do degree. No, just do D. Which one is it? Texture, slope, occlusion, growth, distribution, angle. Ah, God, I am so over it right now. All right, angle. That's what we want. All right, so we got angle goes into erosion. And we can also mask in the angle into the slope. So now we have just the slope being selected and a certain angle. So of course, we have our sun coming up, melting all the snow this way, leaving all the snow over here selected or available. And it actually gives you the azimuth here, so you don't even have to worry about that. We're going to leave it how it was by default because that looked good. So now we have a minimum. Let's not have a minimum. Let's have a very moderate max as well as some fall off. Now do a quick color and a mixer. There we go. All right, sun comes up, melts all the snow over here. Sun's coming down, melts the snow closer towards the tops, but not necessarily towards the bottom. All right, that took longer than it should have. Let's also do some more fall off here. So we don't want to melt all of the snow. It will just look very unnatural. So we want some of the snow peeking its way back in, which we have done. We can continue to increase the fall off here. There we go. So a mixture of angle and slope. And it's super easy because all you have to do is, and you can use these for a bunch of other things, not just texturing and whatnot, but to make selections for other things. Like if you want a rock slide all this side of your mountain, you can. But anyways, it's super easy because all you do is you mask in upon each other. So you have your base node here, which will just be the erosion node, and then say you want the erosion, you want whatever is to occur after your selection to appear in whatever area. It'll be easy. Just erosion. I want it to appear on certain slopes, so you throw in a slope node, and that's what you get. And then you're like, all right, what do I want to appear on this slope? I want this white color to appear on this slope. Okay, well, that's super easy. You make the white color, you put it into input, and then you put it into whatever comes after that. So in this case, a mixer. We can put in additional, we can pipe things in additionally by using another mask that goes to the slope. So we tell where the mixture should distribute this white color after it's been mixed. Super easy. And then after that, you say you want something to be added, like this angle, for example. Again, you just come straight off of the erosion, go straight into the angle, and then the angle will go into the slope as a mask. So now you're masking the angle into the slope, and then you just go from there again. All right, hopefully that wasn't too confusing, but I am available for questions. Let's find another color. How does that look? Kind of makes it look shiny a little bit, but it does look really cool, especially when you look at it from right here. And these times is when I really miss the first person view, but I understand that it's being recreated, so it's nice. That looks really nice. You got these nice rock features and the snow. And then when you come over here, you're like, oh yeah, so the sun hits this area quite a bit. But our sun is, let's move the sun. I think these shadows aren't quite updating. We could decrease the sun intensity to make it look like it's not specular, or the exposure as well. It just really depends what we want. But the sun is coming in from over here, and we kind of, I think this might just be mostly a angle node thing as well. But I'm not going to worry about it too much. But in any case, we do have this cool rocky mountain formation, and it all started from this purlin. And like I said, purlin can be pretty much built into anything you want. We went from this to this, not very interesting, to this, which gave us more detail, a little bit more interesting, and then we eroded it, which gave us some cool erosion, natural patterns, and whatnot. And then we just kind of did a small little texture on it. Not anything too fancy, but again, this was just a testing option just to see how this live stream goes. And yeah, that's what we have. Let's try something else real quick. Let's delete all that, and we're gonna throw in one of my most favorite noises, which is the slope noise. And I like this slope noise because you can use it for, a lot of people make these landscapes, these big mountainous regions that are really cool. I mean, that's what this program's made for, but when you use slope noise, you can combine a couple slope noises together to get a really cool little valley that I like to make every once in a while. So let's go ahead and copy this slope noise, Control C, Control V, and then let's go ahead and combine them. This. And like this. And we gotta change this one up because we don't want it to be the exact same. So we're gonna put some seed to it, and then we're gonna stratify it as well. And then we're just gonna change the direction. So I think we need, what, 90 degrees, 180 degrees? Completely turn that puppy around. There we go. Now we got this combined, and now we got to play with it, and I think it's multiply. Multiply does give some cool effect, but it is multiply, but we have to invert it. But the invert doesn't come after; it comes before, I believe, or. Let's play with some more options. Oops. Gotta zoom out so we can actually see. I also like the extent markers here, so we can see where the edges of our landscape are. Makes it really nice. There, that's the one. So it's going to be screen, not multiply. We don't need this invert. We can delete that. But we do want to use this, go to this combine, and we have these fancy little options that we can add directly to a node, so we don't have to fill up our node graph with a bunch of stuff down here. So we want to use the level, auto level option, and see how that levels it out. Or we don't even have to do that, but oh, look, they added the shaper node in here. Nice. So we don't have to use the auto level. We can use probably the equalize as well, which gives us a different canyon-esque look. We can let's turn off equalize, and let's just go with another little option that we can try here. Bias and gain. We have a little bit more control using that, so let's try increasing the bias. Nope, nope. And gain. Nah, we don't need that either. Let's just go with level. There we go. And then we can play with the influence. About right there. That might work. There are some other things we can do though. Let's continue trying some of these. Max does give a good one too. Difference is pretty good. I like difference quite a bit. So we have like this little ravine down here, like this little river ravine, and these mountain sides. We can create some cool stuff doing that. So let's stick with this for a minute. Alright, so we have our slope noise here. We're going to actually stratify both of them. Sometimes it bugs out. There we go. So we got stratified canyon walls in this little maybe river, valley, ravine area down here. And let's go ahead and add some more stuff to this. So what do we have? Fractal terraces. That's one I haven't played with just yet. Let's throw that on there. Yeah, that looks gnarly. Alright, so cool. We have this, again, little riverbed going on here. And this cool little canyon side. A good thing about this is that we do have terrace, but if we look at fractal terraces over just regular terraces, so let's connect both of them. I can already see some major differences with fractal terraces. So fractal terraces gives you this really cool effect that essentially is exactly what people want from the get-go. They can modify it, obviously, with some other things, but what we were left with before was this terrace effect, which is cool, and you can combine different terraces together to get different looks, and you can change the process, and usually I like to use residual, so you can see how it is, instead of uniformly terracing the entire sides of this canyon wall, these canyon walls we made, it residually does it, so it's terracing here, but not necessarily here. It's like some fall off. But then when all is said and done, this is essentially the look that a lot of 3D artists are going for. And you have to do that with combining multiple terraces and selection options together, and that is a good way to do it, but it just kind of gets cumbersome. So having this option definitely helps. I like that. I like that a lot. Let's see what happens if we change some of these. So octaves, you can see how, again, just like with our Perlin noise, we increase the octaves, we kind of increase the details in our terraces. If we decrease it, we don't have as much detail. And there's less of them too, it looks like. So let's stick with 5, which was a good rounded number. Then let's increase the intensity. Let's see what that does. Yeah, that's what I thought it would do. Just kind of pushes in the edges a bit more and makes the sides a little bit more steep. Let's decrease it. That's the nice thing about this too, is you can have these terraced looks, especially these smaller terraced areas. And the walls retain some of the detail. So you, again, like in older terracing options that we had, we would get stuff that looks like this a lot. And then you'd have to erode it, terrace again, erode it again, terrace it again. And that just became very cumbersome and increased a lot of the build times. So in this case, we have the look we want, but we can increase or decrease the intensity of that look because we still have a lot of fine control. But now we can get the look we want, decrease the intensity, still have the look we need, and still have a good terraced look. This is going to be one of my new favorite nodes, I can already tell. So let's increase that to maybe 40. There we go. And then seed, of course, does what seed does with everything. Just kind of randomizes it. And then if you hold down shift and hit that, it'll go back to the default seed. Spacing is probably just going to decrease and increase the spacing of the terraces. So let's just go ahead and see. Yeah, there we go. And again, that really opens up this valley quite a bit. And notice that we made this valley without using, what is that filter? I am so far out of it right now. I hate it when I can never remember a node, especially when I'm tired. It's gonna be the one that creates like the cracks and... Oh my goodness, I'm gonna sound like such an idiot. I promise you I remember what these are when I actually have sleep. Alright, anyways, let's delete that. This looks pretty cool. I'm gonna decrease the spacing a bit more though. There we go. Alright, so what happens if we erode this? One of my favorite erosion nodes to use is Breaker, especially in these like canyon walls, valley-esque looking areas, because it creates these deep grooves in your landscape. See? Kind of like there's water flowing down into it, and it just looks awesome. But what I like to use is hard cracks, and then I like to change these from fast to accurate. So now they're more accurate cracks that follow the landscape a little bit better. And then I like to play with these if I need to, but most of the time this right here is about all I'll ever use. So what I'm going to do next is we're actually going to throw in some basic erosion, but there is another one in here that I want to try out, which is stacks. This one right here I was super excited for. Let's see what that looks like. So if my understanding is correct, and I can be corrected by pretty much anybody who knows, probably Dax, but stacks is kind of like stacking erosions on top of each other. Like what I was saying with the old terrace node, which still has plenty of uses. I'm saying that already, even though I've just barely used fractal terrace. But anyways, you would stack erosions on top of each other to help fight essentially this kind of stuff right here on steep edges, which is it's doing a good job of actually. So if we were to just use a regular erosion, this is what we get. And again, if we wanted to, we can set up a lot of selection nodes and a bunch of different erosion nodes to get different effects. However, we don't want to do that. We want to minimize the amount of nodes we have altogether, and that's what stacks was supposed to do. And it actually does a really good job. So we go from this, which is really cool, to this. And we have great amounts of detail not only in our terraces, but also on the more steeper areas of our landscape where erosion would otherwise destroy our landscape. So considering that we have stacks on there and it looks just fine now, I'm just going to stick with that. But we can also change some things here. So let's go to style and let's play with these. So we have sedimentary, desiccated, and shattered. I kind of want to see what shattered looks like. Let's go ahead and apply that. Yeah. So what it did is before we had just the default, which gives us these more smooth areas down here. Shattered breaks that up and makes it look like it just shattered. Like we have rock in there still, not just sediment. And it's on the edges as well as the slopes. It looks really nice. I could see the shattered style being used in conjunction with something like thermal. So maybe you could use thermal and then use stacks. Let's see what that looks like. So what the thermal erosion is supposed to do is mimic thermal erosioning. So if you look at mountains, And you see that sometimes they have like these rocks that broke, they fell, they crumbled, they created these big rock piles or sandy piles on the mountain slopes. Those are called talus, and that's what thermal is trying to simulate. So we have our breaker here, oops, which we have this, and then you can see thermal puts these sedimentations on the shallow areas of our landscape, and it actually takes it, breaks it off of these slopey areas and moves it in a natural way down to these areas. And then you actually have debris size. So taluses aren't going to always be these smooth, sandy, sedimentary areas. They're going to have big rocks in it. So you can increase the debris size, and that adds a little noise to it. So now we have these rocky taluses. It's probably a little bit too high. There we go. And then we have stacks. So what we can do is we can combine stacks and thermal together, or we can just go straight from thermal to stacks and see what we get. And I do kind of like that, but I want a little more control over it. So let's go ahead and attach it back to breaker. And let's throw in a combine. So you can, yes, you can combine pretty much any node together. There we go. Said pretty much, not everything. All right. So we have our thermal erosion. And again, we could play with these. I'm not going to get into that. Again, these two nodes alone, all three of these erosion nodes could be their own video, just because of all the different options that you have here, that you can get so many variations in how your landscape looks. We don't necessarily want to spend too much time doing that. So we have that and that combined into this. So we have the talus debris in there, but we also have the stack shattered presence in there. We can blend it together at 100%, and we can get all of the thermal erosion going, or we can blend it at 0 and get all of the shattered. Or we can blend it at 100%, take this mask, and put it into thermal. And there we go. So now we went from this to this. And what that does is now we're bringing in the shattered erosion as well as the talus slopey erosion with its debris. It's nice. That's what I like to do a lot of the time, is just combine it, the ratio of 100 using blend, and then just masking in whatever. And I can mask in stacks if I wanted, but then we wouldn't get enough of the thermal erosion, so I'm just going to stick with masking in the thermal. So that and that to this looks so much better. And just that alone, see up here we have like this weird stretching going on. When we introduce them together, we don't get that so much anymore. Kind of fixes our landscape up a bit, and we retained a lot of cool detail. Alright, so that is super awesome, and if we wanted to, we can go back to the fractal terraces and we can increase our intensity. Now that we've eroded it, we've lost some detail, so let's go ahead and increase the intensity a bit and see how that looks after we erode it. And that looks pretty good too. Probably just a tad bit too much. This is a very early Earth canyon, I imagine, because the Grand Canyon would be probably wider and more steep and deep here. So this is going to be like really early Earth. Anyways, let's go and decrease the intensity and increase the octaves probably. Octaves might be a better option to choose instead of the intensity. And now let's see. Yeah, cool. Now our terraces are really coming in. All right, so let's find another way to actually detail these with, texture maps. And then I think that'll be it for this test stream. So we have our data maps here, and I like using the texture node, and we're actually going to use 2 of these, and I'll tell you why. So let's combine. Let's put these in. you can see how much faster Gaea 1.2 is compared to the older versions. Setting up a texture node sometimes, even on just a couple of nodes, not even this many, would take like a minute or two, depending, and now it does it in like just a couple seconds. It's really nice. All right, we're going to change the mode to B on this one, just so we're using something different. Other than that, that's all we're going to change. I'm not going to change anything else. And then we're going to set this up with a sat map, both of these, but we're going to change one of them. So let's put a sat map in here for this one. And we'll just choose, you know, some orangish canyon look. Maybe, maybe not. Just want something that would look quite decent. Well, let's just stick with that for the time being. And this one, we're actually going to use slope. Attach that. Attach that to texture. I could be doing this wrong too. We could be, we probably just need to use texture and then mask in the, let's put in a set map here, and then just use in our mixer, which we're going to throw in. Just attach that to the slope. There we go. So instead of just having all of this, we now have this, and it's only applying those colors, different colors from this node to the slopes. But it probably doesn't hurt to have it attached to the texture as well. It doesn't seem like it's hurting anything. So now we just want to change our set map, but before we do that, let's change the blend to 100. There we go. So then we have all that color coming through. We do want to play with the slope a bit more though. So let's change the fall off to be just a bit higher, as well as probably decrease the max. It's building. There we go. And let's change the color. We can use something quite ridiculous if we wanted. Like that. It doesn't actually look all that ridiculous. It actually looks pretty cool. But I actually probably want this one to be for the inside. So 207. So let's go find 207. Too far. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. And then let's change this one. Not so much. Not digging it. Again, it's just trial and error. See what you like. Combine them. Go from there. That looks a little better. I probably want more of a dusty desert look on top. It's probably something like that. Yeah, that looks a little better. And then we can do even more. So we can keep this mixture here. And let's add another data map. I keep hitting that, sorry. What I like to use a lot of the time is protrusions. And what this is it's a data map that will look over your terrain and select just the parts that are protruding out. And then it will select them. So again, we just connect that. There we go. And you can see right here with all these selected areas, those are our protrusions. And we can attach that to a sat map. And let's find something rocky that will fit. I'm thinking something dark, just because a dark rock, maybe this. Let's try that. So we'll take our mixer, bring that down, throw in another mixer, connect our sat map there, and then connect this mask to our protrusion. And then let's set the blending to 100. There we go. We got these darker looks coming in because of that sat map. It's finding the rock. and coloring it appropriately. We could probably, so what number is that? 39? Let's try some more. That one actually works quite well as well. Yeah, give and take, play a bit. Let's use a lighter color. Yeah, so now we got this light rock coming in. Actually doesn't look half bad either. I mean, we have so many options here that you could just get lost in what you want. Gaea is most definitely a feature-rich application. That looks really cool too. It gives it a really nice contrast. Alright, cool. Well, we're going to stick with that for a minute. Now, let's say we want a light node to come in after this. What this is going to do, it's going to override our now current light settings. And it's going to give us some good pseudo-rendering-esque look, which is that's what we have now. So before we had that, now we have this. Now we have shadows that look really good, all that fun stuff. All right, so let's play with our sun a bit. You can see it updates in real time as well. Yeah, there we go. We got some shadows. I like that quite a bit. I think I like that shadowy look more. And then from here we play with our ambient light. So let's increase the light intensity on the ambient light just so we have some light coming in on the shadows. There we go. And for those that wish to know how Dax does it in the posts he makes within Gaea, those really cool looking scenes with his water and his rocks and all that fun jazz that he does, this is what he's using. Giving away your secrets, Dax. I'm giving them away. Alright, then if we want to make our shadow softer, we just increase the sun angular diameter. And that'll give us some soft shadows. Alright. We can also play with some other options here that are new to me, which is the air density and the haze and the ozone layer thickness. So I haven't used these in a while because I haven't used the light node, and I believe these are newer. So let's go ahead and play with these. Let's just increase them to some ridiculous amounts. So they're kind of similar to what's that method called? They use it in TheaRender inside of Cinema 4D. I can't remember what it's called, but essentially it's you're playing with like air particles and dust and other hazy smog particles in the air, and it kind of diffuses the light. So the more haze you have, like if we were to decrease the haze, the air density would change and make the scene like more light, I guess. Let's decrease these. There we go. So maybe I got it the other way around. The air density makes things less blue. So when you increase it, we now have like the blue, like the light scattering coming from the atmosphere coming in. And then when we increase the haze, it's not really doing much because you probably have to have some air density for that to work. So let's decrease the haze all the way. And there we go. That's what we're left with, just some of this bland looking thing. And then let's increase the air density. So now we're getting some of that scattered light in, and then let's increase the haze quite a bit. So that kind of just diffuses some of that scattered light a bit. So that actually looks pretty nice, especially for this kind of scene. And then the thickness, I imagine, is these options just kind of amplified, maybe. I don't know. I haven't read into what these are just yet, and I'm just barely tweaking with them, so this actually doesn't seem like it's doing much of anything at the moment, probably because of these two settings, but we're not going to mess with that too much. Let's increase the sun intensity just a tad bit, and there we go. Alright, so say you're happy with this cool canyon wall, 2 canyon walls look, and you want to see at higher resolutions, cool, let's go up here. You have this 0.5K. This is your viewport preview resolution. Let's go ahead and change that to 1K, and it will go through and rebuild all these nodes out at 1K. So you can imagine if you have a lot of nodes in here, rebuilding all these out at 1K can take quite a long time, which is why I can really appreciate the stacks and the fractal terraces node, because otherwise we would have a bunch here and there that, you know, we got to rebuild and rebuild and rebuild, and it could take a long time. So and since rebuilding these out at a higher resolution will take a long time, I apologize. This is, again, just a live test, so we're not going to worry too much about trying to kill the stream here just for it to build. It's just going to be what it is. I hope you all are doing all right during the COVID-19 quarantine and lockdowns. I wish you and your family well. All right, there we go. Alrighty. So cool. Lots of detail in these canyon walls now. The higher resolution makes things look much better. But you don't have to stop there. You can go 1 step higher. You can actually go 2 steps higher, but we're going to go 1 step higher. And we're going to build these out at 2K. I do like the way that sat map colored this. That such a nice sat map. Holy crap. Got these cool, like, desert rock. It just, those 3 sat maps together just look awesome. Another thing that you ought to be aware of is when you change the resolution of your preview or even your builds, these nodes, some of these nodes are dependent on resolution. So some of your stuff, like your erosion and your selections, will change because now it has more, essentially in simple terms, more pixels to work with. And so they will change depending on that. And that's something to take into account. So if you found something that looked nice at 0.5, okay, so essentially 512 by 512, that will most likely be different if you were to increase it to something like 2K or 4K. It'll change a little between 0.5 and 1K, but it's not going to, it'll change a little bit, but it might not change as dramatically as 2 or 4. So keep that in mind. They are resolution dependent. And I learned that the hard way a long time ago when I built something that looked super awesome at low resolution, which is exactly what you want to do anyways. You want to start with making something that looks really good at a lower resolution and then increase the resolution to make it look that much better. No amount of increased resolution will make a crappy looking terrain look good, if that makes sense. So you keep that in mind as you're building things out. Make it look good at smaller resolutions and then increase the resolution for your final build. Chances are your landscape will look really good, but don't get attached to any small details at your lower resolution that you might like, because chances are those are going to shift and change a bit at increased resolutions. So get attached to your overall shape of your landscape, the overall look and feel of it, and then in a different program like Mudbox or ZBrush or Cinema 4D or whatever 3D application you have, it'll be a good and wise choice to sculpt in smaller details off of your Gaea landscape rather than purely rely on Gaea for very minor details. Though you most definitely can, but that, in my opinion, would be a better idea than trying to get all the small minor details in Gaea, because that will just take a lot of time and a lot of effort, where you can just do it in a different program, since you're going to be using another program anyways for final render to sculpt out, cut out, whatever, all those smaller details. And these builds at higher resolutions are taking not as long either. So with this many nodes on older versions of Gaea, I'd probably be waiting 10 minutes, and I don't have a weak CPU by any means. I have a 1950X. It's a Threadripper, an AMD Threadripper. It's by no means a slouch. Might not be the best nowadays, considering that there's a newer one out with more cores, more threads, but by no means is a slouch. So that's saying something. If you can improve a program's ability to decrease the amount of time it takes to build out really intricate nodes that have a lot of settings to them in less time than before, then kudos. Kudos to you and your team, and you deserve all the money from people who buy your program as you can get. That's my opinion. Because I've been around the block for a while in 3D landscape creation and all that fun jazz, and there are companies out there who will make 3D programs specifically for landscapes, and they will change very little in how fast their workflow or how fast people can work in their program, but they'll keep adding features, but they won't enhance already implemented features or coding or anything like that that will help improve the stability and speed of the program. So I'm not taking any pop shots at anybody, but that's just what I've seen. When this 2K build's done, I think we'll call it good, and we'll end the stream. I just want to take one last look at it. This already, I can tell, though, is going to be a super nice landscape. It's a shame I'm just doing this as a test. I might save this file out and keep it, but man, I just love those colors mixed together. They just look so good. I get excited when I create cool looking landscapes. It's a hobby mostly, but man, I love nature in general. I just like getting out and seeing nature. I like not being shut in and can't go anywhere. It sucks. I love being outside. I love hiking, fishing, boating, kayaking, I suppose. Just walking around town and getting outside, and being cooped up has really made me miss it. So seeing this just reminds me of going to Zion's National Park and all those places in Utah that are really pretty and I miss because I can't go see, and this is just great. So I don't know if it's stuck on protrusions, but it might be. Oh my goodness. Sorry guys, I am new to live streaming and I totally forgot to look at the live chat. Yeah, and fault. Yeah, Michael D. It is fault. Hey guys. Jeez, I'm an idiot. Sorry. Yes, so to just kind of go through, Prasun, I hope I'm saying your name right. Hello, dude. And yeah, this is Gaea. I see that you've already read that it was. I don't know why it's streaming at 144p for you. It should be at least 720p or 1080p. Tad, yeah, there is a beginner tutorial for Gaea. I have one on my channel. You can go ahead and view that. I have a lot of them on there actually, but there is a beginner one. Is that something you can toggle or in other versions of Gaea? So you have the Gaea community version. This is the Michael D. Again, hello. Let's see. You have the community version. You notice the edges are not stretching down to sea level, seeing the cake layers on the sides. Is that something that you can toggle or in other versions of Gaea? I don't know if I quite comprehend what you're trying to paint a picture of for me there. I assume that you want zero edges, which at the beginning of the live stream, I kind of showed how to implement zero edges, so you don't have essentially what we have right here, where you don't have, where you have like these edges that are continuing onward. Zero edges will essentially take these down to sea level, and then you'll have your centerpiece to work with. I hope that answers your question. Zero borders, again, you can just right click anywhere in the node graph, go to zero borders right there, and you can attach that to your landscape. And I think just we just took a while to build out a 2K view, and this looks fantastic. So this is a DVR live stream, so if you wanted to go back to the beginning of this live stream, you can. I think it's fairly close to the beginning of the live stream. I think it might be maybe 5-6 minutes in, give or take. You can watch it from there. I apologize for that. If I had been paying attention to the chats, I would have been answering them, and I would have went over it with you again. And also, thank you for saying fault, because for the life of me, I cannot remember. Again, this is just a test live stream because I plan on doing more of these in the future. However, this is my first one, and I just barely started tonight, and I've been working nonstop for months. Literally, since the beginning of this year, I've probably had maybe 2-3 days off because I've been working every day and every weekend, so I'm tired. So thank you all. And yeah, this will be the final build. These colors together, these 3 sat maps are just, in my opinion, they're just banging. Dude, they are super nice. So yeah, I like this landscape. I think I'll keep it. I might actually just put this up for a freebie on Gumroad. So anybody who wants to get on Gumroad and download this, it'll be a freebie. I'm trying to move away from a lot of freebies because I actually am a human and I do need to make money. So but I do like to give my community and people who follow me and watch my live streams, for instance, a lot of good stuff to play with for free. So I'll link the Gumroad store that I have somewhere, probably on my channel somewhere, but you just go to Gumroad, look for PWN Design or Dylan Yarbrough, and you'll find what I have. I already have some freebies on there for you guys. I'll probably just add this one as a freebie. This is really nice looking. Anyways, thank you all for joining. Again, I apologize for not seeing the live chat. It is my first time and I'm new to it. Next one, if I have people who are chatting it up, I will be sure to look at it. And thank you all. And I'll go ahead and end this stream now.